In this video, we're going to talk about HR career management. What's different about managing a career in HR? And I'm sure there's going to be some things that are the same. And how do you prepare for your next step? If you're curious, keep watching. Hi there, I'm Andrea Adams and the host of HR Shop Talk. This is a show where you get expert insight into all things HR. I encourage you to subscribe to the show by clicking on the button at the bottom of the screen, or you can subscribe to the podcast to keep learning from my smart and experienced guests. Today, my guest is Steve Brierley. Steve has spent 20 years in HR, mostly concentrating on talent management and helping people maximize their potential. He's going to share some of that knowledge with us today. Hi, Steve. How are you?
Great, and great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you. So, it's a bit of a different episode. This is one that's going to help people more. So, why do you think it's important to have a conversation around HR career management?
You know, I think it's important because there are so many different lanes you can follow in HR.
Yeah.
You know, you could become an HR advisor, which I find a lot of people stick into and stay in that lane. There's compensation, there's benefits, there's leadership and learning development. There is that talent lane as well. So there's lots of different areas that you can focus on. And I'm going to see each of those focus areas has certifications that are available and allows you to advance through an organization in the HR role.
So how do you just, like that? You're right. There are so many lanes and there's a lot of different skills that go along with each of those lanes. You've got labor relations is a bit of a lane and that's negotiating, and comp is a lot of, you know, spreadsheets and analysis and talent management. And there's just so many. So can we be flip-flopping across those lanes?
Absolutely. And I think it's really important to do that.
Okay.
In my own personal experience, I ended up working in all of those different areas.
Oh, lucky.
And sometimes I did a 6 month, a 1 year, you know, kind of a secondment. It allowed me to really get an idea of what each of the roles were about and whether I wanted to work on them. So I think having that experience and then it enabled me at the end of it, say, this is the area that I really like, I really enjoy. You know, do I want to be in front of the business and work on succession planning details with the business? Do I want to do workforce planning? Do I like the data? I think it's important to experience everything, really.
So in some organizations, you know, they may not really set that up well or make those opportunities really available. How would someone go about finding and creating those opportunities for themselves?
You know, part of this is talking to your leader. It's establishing what your career path is going to be and you telling your leader what kind of plan you want. You have to take charge. You have to be very assertive in this case. And for example, if I'm new to HR and they put me into a recruiting role, I should immediately go in and talk to my leader and say, this is great. I want to do this for a year. But after that, I want to do some time in compensation. And then, by the way, 2 years from there, I want to be an HR advisor. So let's make a development plan for me that I can follow so I can achieve those goals. And I always went five, sometimes 8 years out in my planning.
Yeah, I know that this is an interview of you, but if I could pipe up with my 2 cents, I think in that early stages of your career, look sideways. I think that's really important.
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree with you more. And, you know, quite often people come into HR. This is what I've seen anyways. They're typically put into a junior advisory role or they go into recruiting for whatever reason. But, you know, even working in recruiting, you get a chance to see the business and to get involved with the business clients. So, going sideways is really important.
Yeah. I had an interview with Serge Boudreau. This is just an aside, and he is not impressed by HR's tendency to put new grads and stuff like that straight into recruiting.
It's the worst thing you can do. And when you think about it, it's probably one of the most important roles in HR
Yeah.
team is to bring experienced, great people into your organization.
Yeah.
And there should be a secondment for people who've been in HR for 5 to 10 years, put them back into recruiting instead, and because imagine that these new, and nothing against new people out of school, but they just don't have experience, and they're really the face of the organization out into the public. So I absolutely agree.
Yeah,
it's a pet peeve of mine, actually.
All right, next question here. So we've talked about a few things already. Is there anything else that comes to mind that HR folks should be doing to manage their career?
Absolutely. And so looking at certifications and education.
Yes.
There are a number of great certifications that you can obtain while you're working. And, different CPHR is an example in Alberta.
Yeah.
However, I think besides those certifications, consider doing some post-secondary work, some graduate work, graduate courses, maybe getting a master's in organizational psychology or leadership. There's so many credible educational opportunities now. So I think it's absolutely critical to continue your education after you start in HR.
Okay. Can you think of anything that's different about managing a career in HR as opposed to managing a career in any other field?
And it's a great question. I'm going to say that one thing that I'm noticing in HR is it's evolving pretty dramatically now. And I'm not saying other careers don't evolve, of course, but when you think of all of the new focus areas when it comes to people, so culture,
yes,
mental health, diversity, equity, and inclusion, there's so many different areas that you have to continuously focus on. That I think it makes it challenging, honestly. I mean, there are topics that we're talking about. Mental health is a great example right now. 2021, in my personal experience, we really didn't talk about it that much in 2019 and prior. It was sometimes a bit of a red flag to talk about it, which is just a shame. And whereas now it's important. And I do work with different HR teams right now on how to actually have those conversations because it's difficult.
If you found this useful, subscribe to see all the episodes and talk to us about career management. What have you done that worked well in managing your own career? Tell us in the comment section below. So in conducting all these interviews, I often hear a comment like, if such and such happens, you should be writing your resume and leaving. Related to that idea, what are those experiences and situations that ambitious, engaged HR people should avoid?
That's an excellent question, by the way. The first thing I would say, you need to understand your personal values when it comes to integrity and respect and how you treat people and how you're treated. I think that's those are game changers for me.
Yeah.
Especially if someone doesn't treat me with respect.
Right.
I think I've seen people who have decided to allow that to happen, and it ruins their careers. There's lots of jobs out there. There's lots of HR jobs out there. It's such a fast growing, demanding field. There's so many specialties. There's lots of work in HR.
Right.
So I would personally never settle and work with somebody who wasn't supporting me. Leaders are supposed to make me better. That's their goal. And if my leader is not helping me get better, if my leader is treating me with no respect, I think it's time to consider maybe a different option.
That brings another question to mind. So you talked about knowing your values, and that to me is a bit of a lifelong process.
Yes, it is.
Of understanding your values and the things that are important to you. So how can someone get going on that early?
So I would recommend this, and I went through this process. There's a book called The Power of Purpose.
The Power of Purpose.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll put a link to that, by the way, in the description of the episode.
The book's been around for a little while. I did meet his name is Richard Leider, Leider. And he talks about purpose and the importance it has in your life.
Yeah.
within that, there's a bit of a formula on what to do to identify what your purpose is.
Okay.
So I did that.
Yeah.
And I stepped back, and it's going to sound corny because it was life-changing for me.
Yeah.
And then once I identified my purpose, so they say North Star, or,
Yeah. Okay.
I changed the way I was working and how I was operating and what I was willing to put up with and what I wasn't willing to put up with. And I moved forward. There's another great book, by the way, called True North.
True North.
Yeah, that's a fantastic, and that's about authentic leadership, but leading yourself.
Ah.
And it's, often you hear the term, "Got to find my North Star." Well, I think both of those help you to. I wish I would have done it when I was 20.
Yeah.
I unfortunately didn't.
I hear you.
That was a long time ago for me. But
ditto. And so to everybody out there, look at us. We're wishing we did it early. So do it early.
Do it now. Don't waste a minute.
Yeah. So for those people who want to go up and get into leadership, what are some leadership skills that are particular to HR or more heavily emphasized in HR?
First one is so important is the ability to communicate effectively. Mm-hmm. And to be able to connect with people. Mm. And under communication, It's really around how do I deal with conflict? How do I establish relationships? Yeah. How do I work with people? Mm-hmm. And how do I have an impact? I think without that, nothing else matters, by the way. Mm-hmm. You can be great at everything else, but if you can't connect with other people, you're not going to be successful at all. Mm-hmm. The second thing, and we'd spoken about this earlier, is just having a growth mindset or an open mindset. Mm-hmm. And understand you're going to be, once you choose HR as a path, you're never going to stop learning. So if you're a person who doesn't like to learn, don't go into HR because you're always going to be learning something new. The third thing I'm going to say is consider versatility as an important thing where I can think of situations and scenarios I've been in when I've been asked to do something that was completely out of my wheelhouse. Mm-hmm. But what the heck? I gave it a try, and I learned, made some mistakes, kept moving. Yeah. So definitely the communication skills are how to connect, having an open mind, and just constant learning. Mm-hmm. Be prepared that you're going to need to learn new things.
Okay, so final question here. What's one thought you would like to leave with the audience, either emphasizing something you've already said or something just different?
If you're thinking about getting into HR, get into HR. It is an incredible career path. There's so many great opportunities and specialties within HR, including talent management. When it comes to organizational life, you can have a major impact on the success of an organization. And I love it. And it's different. Every single day is different. It's very dynamic. It's challenging. It can be stressful, but it's also very rewarding. And, one thing that I love as well about HR, it's kind of a side note, but you can do it forever. There's no age limit on being in HR. I know so many HR consultants are in their 80s, and it's because they love the dynamic part of working with people.
Yeah. So that would include my dad.
There you go.
Yeah. Thanks, Steve. I should have had this conversation somehow. I should have had this conversation in my 20s. That might have changed a little bit the trajectory of my career. I did an episode with Steve on talent management as well, and you can see that here. Thanks for watching and see you next time.